Very good evening, friends. So I hope you're all safe as well as healthy. Well, this month I've started a series on Index 7 that talks about cash flow statements. In the previous video, we were discussing about the scope of the standard with reference to Index 1, that is it a core part of the financial statements of the company? And we said yes, of course, it is a core component of the financial statements of a company. But I think the other question, what comes to the mind is that what is a cash flow statement? When I'm making a cash flow statement, what do you mean by a cash flow statement? And I think the entire concept is hidden in the name, that is cash flow statement. So I think let's dig into these three words, that what is cash, what is flow, and of course statement of course means a statement. Let's find this out in detail with reference to a few definitions which are given in Index 7. 10 plus 10. Oh my God. भाई इस वक्त इंटरमीडिएट की अगर आप अपनी सब्सक्रिप्शन प्लान कर रहे हैं तो 10% आपका प्राइस ड्रॉप चल रहा है और साथ में आप कोड इस्तेमाल करेंगे तो आपको 10% डिस्काउंट और मिलेगा। कोड है CAKB10। प्लस बैचेस या आइकॉनिक बैचेस आप कुछ भी प्लान कर रहे हैं तो इसके अंदर आपको इस वक्त 10 + 10 डिस्काउंट मिलेगा, इफेक्टिवली 20%। इसके अंदर अलग अलग प्लान्स हैं और आइकॉनिक और प्लस बैचेस दोनों में आपको डिस्काउंट मिलेगा, लेकिन ये डिस्काउंट अभी आज शुरू हुआ है और 5 मार्च को रात को 12 बजे समाप्त हो जाएगा। तो इसको आप अवेल करने के लिए क्या कर सकते हैं, बट उससे पहले ज़रा प्लान्स पर एक नज़र डाल लीजिए। 6 मंथ्स के, 12 मंथ्स के, 18 मंथ्स के और 24 मंथ्स के प्लान्स हैं जिनकी करंट प्राइस और ऑफर प्राइस आपको दी है। और ऐसी आइकॉनिक की बात करें तो इसके अंदर आपके पास 6 मंथ्स, 12 मंथ्स और 24 मंथ्स के प्लान्स हैं। ये आपके पूरे इंटरमीडिएट के ग्रुप 1 और ग्रुप 2 के प्लान्स हैं जो आपके प्लान को, बजट को सूट करते हो। इनमें आप वो प्लान सेलेक्ट कीजिए। डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स के अंदर आपको लिंक्स मिल जाएंगे जहां पर आप इंटरमीडिएट की सब्सक्रिप्शन ले सकते हैं। कोड याद रखिएगा CAKB10, 10% डिस्काउंट के लिए। बाकी किस बात का इंतजार है, आइए लेट्स क्रैक इट। As I just mentioned, that when you look at the term cash flow statement, you can see two important words. One is cash and one is the word flows. Now, I think first of all, let's understand the word flow before we understand the word cash. Now, there are flows, that means it's either an inflow or it's an outflow. So if you look at the definition, it says the cash flows are inflows and outflows. Naturally, it is an inflow outflow of a cash and cash equivalent. Now, the question arises, what do you mean by a cash and cash equivalents? Now, before that, let me also tell you that these inflows and outflows are going to be segregated in terms of 3 activities. One is what you call operating activities, that is linked to the business operation. One is called investing activities, and which is typically related to, you can say, the investments and the PPE and including intangibles. And you can say financing activities, which would typically relate to the capital structure of the company. That means we are reaching somewhat a conclusion that a statement which will give you the movements of inflows and outflows of cash and cash equivalents arising out of operating, investing and financing activity. But I think the $1,000,000 question now comes, what is this cash and cash equivalent? Because when I use the word cash means that it is cash and cash equivalents. Well, we understand what is cash. We can say the cash would mean that it is a cash in hand. It would also mean the bank balance and minus the bank OD as well. So when you're looking at cash, we're saying it's a sum total of the cash in hand plus the balance at bank and minus the bank OD. And then it says cash equivalents. Cash equivalents, we can say, are short-term, highly liquid investments that are readily convertible to known amounts of cash and which are subject to insignificant risk of changes in value. Typically for being a cash equivalent, we can say investments which have got a maturity period of 3 months from the date of acquisition are called cash equivalents. So would, for example, an equity investments be considered as a cash equivalent? Generally, no. For example, if you're considering any bank borrowings, well, bank borrowings would typically be treated as financing activities and not a cash equivalent. So we can say typically the cash equivalents would comprise of, you can say, short-term investments, not long-term, and generally which have got a maturity within 3 years from the date of acquisition. So I think putting it in a nutshell, we can say a statement which reflects the inflows and the outflows of cash and cash equivalents. You know what is cash and cash equivalents, arising out of 3 activities: investing, financing, and operating activity. So basically, I want to make a statement which gives me a movements, segregated activity wise, and tells me inflows and outflows on account of cash and cash equivalents. That is what is called a cash flow statement. Isn't that pretty interesting? That's all in this video. Wait for some more interesting inputs coming on India 7. Thank you for watching. Take care and goodbye.